a delay in the event that, one of us starts speaking a horribly foul language. Then you can just cut it off.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. All right, looks like a 2-minute warning. All right, looks like a 2-minute warning. Someone has the YouTube app.
Oh yeah, I've got to get that off.
I think you can just mute the YouTube and then it can continue to stream or whatever.
I think so, hopefully. Why am I not getting you?
Should I just keep talking to see if you get the echo or?
Yeah, no echo there, but I just can't. I've only got you on my screen.
That might be because you're in speaker view instead of gallery view.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to get back here.
It should be in the upper right of just the regular screen because you're using a desktop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I don't know what I'm doing here. Uh-oh.
Oh, can you share your screen and give me control? Oh no, that only works for the documents.
What do you see now?
Well, what I see doesn't matter. I don't have the stream up. Here, let me check. All right.
I'm having problems here.
You might have to get a hold of George then, Janice.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Oh, return to meeting. Here we go.
Oh, live now.
Problems here.
Okay, no, I'm checking the stream now, Janice, and I see the speaker view, so I think you're okay.
Yeah.
But now it's gonna horribly. Oh, there we go. We got everyone now.
We've got everybody on. I'm going to share my screen. Okay.
Okay. So we were just dealing with some technical difficulties, but I think we're all up and running now. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the meeting. It's currently 1:31. And, oh, there we go. First off, we'll call to order, and I'll start by recognizing that we are conducting our business today on the territories of the Neutron Earth peoples, and not just to recognize that, but to appreciate it as well. We have an agenda before us that I don't believe has any additional items nor any additional materials, so that's great. And I guess we can get a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Okay, Dr. Osborne and then Dr. McNabb. Thank you very much. Are there any comments or additions? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Okay, motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item 3, which are declarations. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest or gifts exceeding $250? Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, the $300 that the government gave us as seniors, do we have to declare that?
I think it's because everyone gets it. It's okay.
Oh.
Well, everyone who can do that.
Just old people.
John, you're not a senior, are you?
Just in my heart and my liver. Okay. So I don't see anything under item 3, so that brings us to item 4. That's the adoption of minutes. So item A is the Board of Directors meeting for May 27th, 2020.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts, and seconded by Director McCarthy. And Dr. Bodnar, did you have a comment, or were you just trying to second? Okay. Okay. Does anyone have any comments, corrections, errors? Seeing none. All those in favor then? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to the West Coast Committee meeting dated June 1st, 2020.
Move adoption.
Thank you,
Second.
Dr. Osborne, seconded by Director McCarthy, I believe, because I wasn't looking at the screen. Any comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, and item C is the COVID-19 Community Recovery Team meeting dated June 2nd, 2020.
Move adoption.
Thank you, Director McCarthy. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Bodnar. Any comments? Go ahead, Director Shannon.
Thank you. Just that on the beginning of those minutes on page 21, it says June 20th, not June 2nd, if you go to that page.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So when we move adoption, then we'll as amended. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none. Can we have a motion? Thank you, Dr. Osborne. Oh, wait, sorry. Dr. McCarthy. Okay, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Sorry, Dr. McCarthy and Dr. Bodnar already did that. Okay, next up is item 5, which are petitions, delegations, and presentations. We have 2 of them today, and they're both present. We have Sergeant Peter Dion and a compatriot, who I can't make out. And we also have Amira Strain from ModSafe. So generally speaking, we have a 10-minute limit on presentations. And I know you guys are just speaking, so that's fine. We'll just keep this view going. If we hit the 10-minute mark and it doesn't seem like you're most of the way through your presentation, I may hit pause and ask the board if we want to keep going. The answer is usually yes. And yeah, we'll start with Sergeant Peter Dion, if you don't mind.
So actually, Sergeant Peter Young is not here today.
Sorry, I can't see you from here.
Oh. Yeah, I'm the new inspector. I'm Eric Rochette. I'm the new officer in charge of the detachment. And just because it's day 7 for me, I asked Sergeant Clive Seabrook to sit with me in case there's questions. And since I'm brand new in the area, just I don't know the answers. He'll be here to assist me. So I see with a 10-minute maximum. I'm just gonna quick introduction about myself. I was born and raised in Montreal. I've been an RCMP officer for 23 years. My last post I was the operations supervisor at the Comox Valley Detachment, so not too far from here. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, my house is still on the market in Comox, so I'm currently commuting from Comox every day to work. And so I'm hoping to be able to move into the area by probably mid-August. So that's for my, on a personal level, I'm married. My wife is a RCMP officer as well. We have 4 kids, 2 girls, 9 and 7, and we have twin boys that are 3.5. So, and my wife is currently on leave without pay to try to manage all the kids, and especially without school has been a bit of a challenge. So I'm assuming, I think Pete Dion sent you the quarterly report. It's attached to the document there on the screen. I'll briefly go through the stats. At first glance, the stats are quite positive for the RCMP, a number of calls for service. During the first quarter, which is the first 3 months of the year, so January to March, the detachment received just over 3,000 calls for service, and of those 3,370 calls were in the regional district. So approximately 10% of our calls for service are within the district. We've seen a reduction of criminal code offenses of approximately 7% compared to the first quarter in 2019. That could be related to some projects that we did go through a few months ago in relation to the crime reduction unit that targeted a few prolific offenders related to property offenses. And that probably why the property crime is down by 15% compared to the same quarter last year. Attached to that document as well is the 5 priorities that were established for detachment for the fiscal year 2020/2021. We called it the annual performance plan for the detachment. So some of them are regular, that do see them every year, like a traffic road safety. Obviously, it's related to increased enforcement and the reduction of impaired drivers and keeping our streets safe, and reducing the number of collisions and injuries on the road. The second one is following violence, which is related to domestic violence. The focus is on education and awareness, and making sure there's good community support for victims to make them feel comfortable to approach the police and report any incident of domestic violence. It's what we call a wraparound approach of harm reduction. Then there's as well as focus on providing services to the victims with community victim services, as well as police, Port Alberni Detachment Victim Services as well. I briefly mentioned the crime reduction unit. Basically, our plan is to target prolific offenders, which, you know, a small number of offenders, 60 to 70% of crimes. So if we can target them, usually you see right away an impact on reduction of calls for service, which we've noticed in the first quarter this year. Aboriginal policing, which has been a bit of a challenge. Like, we're trying to focus on providing different programs at school. Unfortunately, with COVID-19, some of those programs have been reduced, or some have been suspended for now. And hopefully we're gonna see what it's gonna look like in September as far as return to school, if it's gonna go back to 5 days or 3 days, or we're not too sure yet how things are gonna turn out in regards to that. As well as trying to keep working with Indigenous leaders and see if anything else we could do to improve our relationship with the different Indigenous communities. And in link with that is obviously the focus on youth, trying to bring positive interaction with them. We have a youth liaison officer who's just heavily engaged with kids. Obviously, this time of year now, he's going back to general duty for the next couple of months. But in September, he's going to be back at the school and working with all the schools in the area and provided different programs, and see what we can do to, create a more positive interaction with our youth in the area. Scrolling down, this is more like the number game, just the calls for service. I see there's a page that if you look at calls for service from the first quarter, if you compare 2020 and 2019, it says 682, but it's a typo. It's actually 382. So, and this quarter is 370. So there's been a slight reduction, but not like a 45% reduction like the number shows there. So I'm gonna have to change that for the next reporting. If you look at the go by crime type, and it's pretty much status quo for a lot of them. The only big difference, like I mentioned earlier, probably related to some of the projects that were established a few months ago. Property crime has gone down slightly, 38-33, and the total criminal code offenses has gone down slightly as well, from 62-58. The rest, the numbers are quite similar than the previous quarter. If you scroll down a bit for violent crime, again, the numbers are quite similar, extremely low, like harassment 2 to 0. The only thing we've seen a bit of an increase for domestic violence, from 2 to 5, which is linked with ordering threats to 2 to 4. And the only thing that's, if you calculate that as 2 reports of 6 assault haven't been added to the report here that we're gonna have to add the sex offenses. It should be 3, not 1. Scroll down for property crime, just to break down a little bit the stats, like I mentioned earlier, 33 for the first quarter. If you break them down, what we've been having the biggest issues is related to break and enter to business. Went 1 to 4. It's still a fairly low number, but it's like a fairly decent increase compared to the first quarter last year. And I know that our crime reduction unit, as well as our general duty members, are currently working on that. And break and enter, and it's interesting because break and enter to business have gone up, but break and enter to residences, and as well as when they say break and enter others, it's usually sheds, outer buildings. The numbers have gone down as well. And theft from vehicles, slight increase. I know that I sat down with their new manager of community policing, Dave Couson, and he's currently working on a program that's going to, try to generate some community awareness in regards to theft from vehicles and making sure to putting, not leaving a laptop or your cell phone or wallet and visible in your vehicle, and making sure you keep you lock your doors. And the last part is other criminal code. Cause disturbance, a slight increase. Breach probation went from 4 to 0, and then breach of bail, which is bail of undertaking, which went from 0 to 4. As far as intoxicating public, numbers stay the same. So if you look at the numbers in general, there's been a reduction in calls for service. Statistically speaking, the numbers are quite low when you compare with the amount of calls we get for comparing the regional district and the city of Port Alberni. And I'm not sure if there's any questions or concerns. Obviously, this is not probably the best way for me to be introduced to all of you. It would have been probably easier to meet you in person, but it's just the reality, or probably a new reality for the near future. And what I want to say is I encourage you, if you have any question or concern that you want to discuss, sidebar, or give me a call, please feel free. I'll do the best I can to answer your question. If I don't know the answer, I'll research it and get back to you as soon as possible. If there's any questions right now, I'd be more than happy to answer questions. That's why I have Clive Seabrook with me. He's been here for 13 years. So if I don't know, you'll know for sure. So that's it from me.
No pressure there.
Thank you, Eric. You hit it right on the nose for the timing, so we're all good there. I see Diane Bodner, and then Kel Roberts, Director Roberts, and Director Bodner, and then Director Cote. So, Director Bodner, if you would go first.
Yes, I do have, well, welcome to the Valley first. And I hope that you'll be able to be welcomed here with open arms, I'm sure. I would like to ask you about the recent incident that happened on the reserve that was certainly uncalled for. And is there some way that, or some plan that you would be thinking about putting into event to prevent that harassment and incidents like that from happening anymore in their community?
Well, obviously specifically to the incident, I know, I'm sure you're aware that we were able to, we made an arrest and charges have been forwarded to Crown Counsel. It will be forwarded shortly. As far as trying to prevent that in the future, actually I had a meeting yesterday with some of the leadership, and we didn't discuss specifically that incident, but more about in regards of awareness, education, and I think there's obviously room for improvement in regards to that. So I'll try to, obviously I'll make sure to be a lead in regards to that, and try to come up with different ways that we can make sure that incidents such as what happened that night, that doesn't happen again, and be able to be a bit more proactive in regards to that. And so I've been working with my Indigenous policing section, and I know they have a great rapport with all the different Indigenous communities in the area, and just trying to learn what they're doing, what they've been involved in, and anything we can improve and work on, we'll move forward with that. I don't know if Clive, if you have any comments in regards to that.
Yeah, no, I think that at the very least, all serves as a good example, and the dialogue and conversations that have happened as a result of that, awareness about, how that's not okay. So we're hoping that those conversations will help with that in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Next up, we have Director Roberts and then Director Cote. Was there anyone else who wanted to speak? Director Beckett and then Director Haggard. Thank you. Please go ahead, Director Roberts.
Yes, thank you for that. And welcome, Inspector Roche. It's good to have you here. And I'm sure that that throughout the regional district, we're going to have good rapport and it's excellent. On another note, the recent comment by the Prime Minister with regards to body cameras, is that going to be implemented? And do you have any comment on that, or is it just part of policy from the government?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I've heard about this the same time as you guys through the media. I know we received an email this morning from Brenda Lucky in regards to that, but really no specific information as far as timeline. And what I know, there's a lot of steps here as far as when we're talking about what it costs for sure, and the type of cameras, the retention of the information, disclosure to court, and the list goes on and on and on. But as soon as I know more, I will share with all the stakeholders, and because obviously there will be a cost associated with that system.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Cheers.
Great. I have Director Cote and then Director Beckett.
So welcome to the Alberni Valley and the Alberni Claypot Regional District. I'm the director from Sprout Lake. Penny Cody's my name, and just like to ask a couple questions. I'm not surprised at all by the statistics that you have here of the less break and enters to homes because of everybody being home through this COVID experience. I was interested in how businesses were being affected through the lens of the RCMP since they were closed, and it seems to be just a few that were broken into. Whether or not that had anything to do with COVID or not, I'm not sure. So I'm just wondering what your take is on that. And being the director from Sprout Lake, just wondering if you have any idea of what the plan is for summer of 2020 for RCMP presence out at Sprout Lake. It is a recreational area, and we do have a lot of visitors from other places, and things do tend to get out of hand at times. And without the Marine Patrol this year, which I'm hoping that the directors would actually reconsider reinstating this program for this summer. There is no presence then. Usually the Marine Patrol are the eyes and ears of the community and assist with RCMP. So I'm sure that someone can fill you in on the program that we've had here. We receive a grant for it and have really appreciated the liaison with the RCMP. So welcome, and I'm sure that we'll be seeing you at one point. Thank you.
Sure. I just want to comment on the, I'll probably let Sergeant Seabrook talk about the break and enters, but in regards of patrolling the lake, I just received an email that because we requested seasonal policing funding from division, so we're requesting $11,000, and some of that amount will be linked to increase vessel patrols and being on the lake during the summer. So I should know probably in the next couple of weeks what will be approved by the province and the RCMP. So hopefully we get a fairly good share of that back, and so we can actually be able to put members on the water and make sure that the lake is safe and increase our presence there.
And then on the break and enter to businesses, it's hard to say for sure that a business wouldn't have been broken into because of COVID, but certainly what we did see was almost overnight, a lot of businesses closed and they were left unattended or seemingly unattended for, you know, a week or so while people kind of sorted out exactly how they were going to deal with that. So, you know, from looking at those files, I would say that certainly some of those are COVID related, but to put a number on it is hard to say. But I think a lot of it was just from those businesses going from maybe being closed on the weekends or even just one day, a Sunday, to suddenly they were empty for, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 days. And it gave people a little bit more time to kind of think about things and plan what the crime was going to be. So yeah, I would say some for sure, but how many, it's hard to say.
Okay, thank you for that. That brings us to Director Beckett and then Director Haggard.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Inspector. You know, incidents south of the border have put a negative focus on policing in the U.S. And I think it's important that your members know how much our community, and that's the community of Banfield, appreciates and respects and values your members. And I'd like to ask that you pass that on to your members, and thank you for all of the good work that your police service is doing for us. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll make sure to pass this along to the members. Yeah, it has been obviously difficult, but even when you look at some of the protests we've had in town, like people have been respectful, peaceful, and you know, supportive of the RCMP. So really grateful about that.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. That brings us to Director Haggard. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Cote asked my question about the break-in enters. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments? Well, Inspector, on behalf of the Alberta Clyde Regional District, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for your report, and hope to have more great interactions with you and your members, and we will we'll hopefully see each other soon. But right now, I guess video conferencing is going to have to do. So,
well, thank you very much. It was nice to meet you all.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so next up is Amira. Hi, Amira. So Amira is from WildSafe BC. She is the Alberni Valley Community Coordinator. So you're presenting here on an overview of the public education plans for limiting human-wildlife conflicts and managing attractants. So please go ahead.
Yes. Hello, my name is Amira. Yeah, I'm the new community coordinator for the Valley. And so I have just been I've been working now for the last month and a half, and I've started to do some more kind of outreach into the community. But right now, my main focus is on kind of mapping where our conflict areas in Port Alberni are and the surrounding areas. And I've been working with the conservation officers, and I did my first round of garbage tagging last night, which is I go around the night before collection day in a spot that I've picked. Yesterday it was from 1st Ave to 10th Ave, Argyle to Mar Street, and I ended up tagging 19 bins that had been put out. And so that's just letting people know, and I provide my email so they can get in contact with me if they want more information. But basically my role is to provide education before the need of enforcement. So my plan for the next couple of months is to continue on kind of figuring out where our problem areas are, as it is a new program to the Valley, as well as I'm meeting this afternoon with the Gleaning Project to try and get the work to connect with them and see how they'd like my support in kind of managing the fruit tree attractant, as well as hopefully come September and October, I'm hoping to be able to, rather through Zoom calls or if in-person stuff is actually a thing, to do some of the Wild Safe Ranger programs with kids from K to 8. Yeah, as well as seeing if there's interest on doing some safety webinars, as well as markets start to open up again. I'm planning on doing some booths, because right now my main focus is getting the word out to the public and trying to start that relationship with people in order to provide education. Yeah, so I just wanted to connect with all of you because obviously the ACRD is one of the sponsors, which I'm grateful for you guys for opening up this opportunity for me. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts, and if you had any questions or concerns in certain areas that you've seen that there have been an increase in human wildlife conflicts, and if there's anything you would appreciate my support in, such as I have boxes of brochures, we can print signs. I am more than happy if you have areas that you would like me to go and do some door-to-door canvassing, because I currently don't have a set, like I'm starting my map of hotspots from scratch. So if any information that anyone could provide would be very helpful. And yeah, that's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you for that. I think I saw Director Cote with her hand up. Is there anyone else who had any comments? Okay, Director Cote, if you will.
Thank you. It's very great to see this position is filled. I think it was Crystal was the person before you, or that was just Bear Aware. Sprout Lake, we've already had community email or Facebook or whatever talking about a cougar in the Bishop area. And do you have a forum or something that you use that identifies areas of problem for the community members? And if you have information online, I could post that.
Yeah, so we have the WARP line, which is the wildlife reporting and alerting program, which I'm trying to get up and running a lot more in Port. There are it automatically gets updated with calls to the conservation officers. But so that's a good, you can sign up and you get email alerts for your area as to if there's any, if there have been sightings or attacks or anything. So that I would definitely recommend getting the word out for that. I also I have started up a Facebook page that hopefully I can continue to update with safety, and if there are any bear or cougars in the area, I'll be updating it there. But again, my reach is not very big because it's brand new. But yeah, I would definitely, if you look up the WARP, because it's, yeah, you get emails straight to your account and it will let you know. So it's a useful service.
Can that information be passed on to the regional staff and we can pass it out? Thank you.
Yeah.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you, Dr. Cote. So I have Dr. Roberts and then Director Cole. And then Director Shannon.
Yeah, thank you for that, Amira. My question is, your connection is basically the Alberni Valley community. Do you have any connection to anybody on the West Coast, as I'm the area seat director, Long Beach, Tofino, and communities out here where we definitely are having issues around bears, cougar, wolves, all that sort of wildlife, plus a lot of deer, which is really nice, and other little animals. But I'd like to get some more information with regards to the West Coast itself. Thank you.
Yeah. So there are two other community coordinators on the West Coast. For the Pacific Rim area, it's Bob Hansen. So I can forward on his email to you if you would like. And then Mandy, what's her last name? And then Mandy is the community coordinator in Bamfield, but I cannot remember her last name at the moment. But I can forward you Bob's Bob's email if you would like to get in contact with him, because he does the Tofino Ucula area.
Yeah, thank you very much. That would be great. If you could again pass it through to staff and they can forward it out to us. Appreciate it.
If it helps, I can't remember Mandy's last name off the top of my head right now. Yeah, there. So I have Director Cole and then Director Shannon. And then
Hi
Director
there.
Bob.
Bob did actually just present at our district council meeting last night or yesterday afternoon. So that was great. I was wondering, he talked a lot, and we actually went through a lot about electrified fences and the chickens and the other things that are these attractants in the community. Is that going to be part of something you're doing in the rest of the regional district as well?
Yeah, so the hope is definitely to start to get the word out about electric fencing, because we've definitely seen an increase, especially with COVID and the want for food security. However, like at this time, I haven't been trained in electric fencing, but I'm working on like trying to get that so I can offer assistance in the Valley. But there are a lot of really helpful resources that I'm going to continue to try and share. But yeah, I'm hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I mean, I have 100 fence posts I have to put up for the pigs, so that can be part of my training. But it's definitely, electric fencing is definitely on my list of things. It's not quite at the top priority just because I don't have the experience in it, but it's definitely something that I'm hoping to expand upon in the future.
Awesome. Thanks very much. I do think we have a bit of a chicken culture out here. So I think that was probably bumped up more on his priority list. There's a whole like chicken club and everything. So
I've recently heard about all these chicken things going on, and it's, yeah, the price of farm eggs is just crashing. It's amazing. It's a buyer's market. Okay, so we're getting into Director Shannon and then Director Bodner.
Thank you. Hi, Amira. My question is, I'm assuming that you're going to be mostly concentrating on predatory animals for the conflicts, but are you doing anything with ungulates, specifically deer right now, because so many are fawning, and just education on that end of like, don't touch them, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's definitely a big one, like, because deer also create conflicts. So yeah, definitely working on deer it's also one of my priorities, especially for right now. I mean, I drove out Beaver Creek the other day, and the amount of deer on the side of the road and fawns, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it's time to get some deer aware back out there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm Beaufort director, so I'm out here, and it's, yeah, there's a bunch, and you just kind of see sometimes some posts like, oh, this fawn's by itself, what do we do? Who do we call? And it's just like,
leave it.
Just, yeah, exactly, right? So, okay, thank you very much.
Great. I have Director Bodner next.
Thank you. Yes, Amira, hi, this is Diane Bodner, and I am the director for the Cherry Creek Regional District. And I do a lot of walking on the trails around here in the valley. And I noticed that when there is a bear concern or a cougar concern, there is a sign that goes up on some of the trails in town. However, I don't see anything being put up at McLean's Mill or on the Yellow Gate out at Beaufort, not Beaufort, at Bainbridge. And those areas are used a lot by people. They also asking if there's any information then that you have on your Facebook or could put out about what you do when you do encounter a bear. So I just like to get some information on that, please.
Yeah. So I can definitely, I can make sure there are, like, if there are sightings and there are worries, I can make sure that signs go up. That's definitely it's good to know that there haven't been that much signage out Cherry Creek Way. And then, yeah, so I mean, all of the information I get comes from the Wild Safe BC site, because it has like an extensive list on, you can pick which animal and it will tell you what to do in the accounts of an encounter. But I am definitely continuing to share information on that on the Facebook page. And we'll hopefully, if there is interest in the future, to do like bear safety webinars, or even I just got my bear spray training, so to potentially do bear spray workshops. However, with COVID, with the safety restrictions, it is quite limited, but it's definitely something that's a priority.
Okay. Well, I think I have one or two comments, and I think this might help for the future. It's a good introduction to have you come here. We may want to have you interact with some of our committees or working groups in regards to, say, because I can think of animal interactions kind of falling in three different areas, maybe just two. First area is like the urban interface, so just coming into town or being on the roads. Second would be any agricultural or farming based interactions, because there's real economic concerns there too. And then third would be parks and trails. So I know that you, the provincial parks and the Pacific Rim National Park will have their own kind of approach to what's going on. But the anecdote I have is when I lived in Cherry Creek, my wife and I went for a hike way too late, like right before sundown, and we came across a bear that wouldn't back down behind the hospital. And I'm just thinking there's an opportunity, and the RCMP is actually the people who came and chased them away with the canine unit. But the opportunity here is if and when the parks and trails open up again, it might be a good opportunity to have some communications coordination, either posted signs or including that kind of message in some way, shape, or form beforehand. So it might be important to keep you or kind of involved in understanding what's going on. So even though you're new here, that's an opportunity as well as a difficulty. So I think we can start to build information up over time and hopefully set some good foundations for what we're going to do. Because at least in my community in Bamfield and Anakla, there has been like photographs of not just a lot of bears in and around the communities, but even signs of cougars, maybe even more than one. So these are the types of things that we can communicate on, kind of reiterate. I mean, our communities are doing that already, but it's good to have a coordinated approach. So I'd like to thank you for coming in, giving your presentation, and we will likely be in contact, maybe with an invitation to an agricultural committee or Parks and Trails conversation in the future. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you.
Okay, so that wraps up all of the presentations. So I think all we need now is a motion to receive those presentations. Thank you, Director Shannon. Do we have a seconder? Director McCarthy. Okay, does anyone have any comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, so that brings us to item number 6, correspondence for action. There's no items there. And item 7 is correspondence for information. Would anyone like to pull anything out? Go ahead, Director Shannon.
Thank you. I was just really interested to see from the Habitat Conservation Trust Foundation that they're allocating $25,000 for relocation of some Roosevelt's elk in problem areas along roadsides and agriculture to the West Coast. And I don't know if anybody here has any more information off of perhaps maybe what herd that might be or what area and where on the West Coast they're planning on relocating them to.
No.
Probably not, but
I can maybe follow up and interact with the Wildlife Council for the Mono First Nations. We have somebody who's very active there who may know. But Director Roberts had his hand up, so he may know or have a hint. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that. There has been talk about locating, transposing, if you will, or transporting elk out to the West Coast in the area in behind Ukulith Nation and Mount Ozard in this area as well. There has been the odd one spotted, but I was under the impression and maybe Director McCarthy can fill us in if he knows any more about it than that. But I know that Director Coots had mentioned that there was a herd in behind his nation, and other than that, I'm not aware of anything more than that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Are there any other comments? I think this is something that bears following up, so I'll do some digging myself and see what's going on. Okay, let's get a motion to receive the information or the correspondence for information. Thank you, Director Shannon, seconded by Director McNabb. Any further comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. All right. Okay, that brings us to the meat of the matter. We have 8A, which is a request for decision regarding the bylaw notice enforcement bylaw notice enforcement bylaw, PS 1008, and dispute adjudication system. Mr. Erg, if you will.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. So what I thought I would do is I will run through the bylaw, the recommendations and the staff report, and then answer any questions anybody may have. So just running through the recommendations. The first recommendation, and sorry for the error, is one confirmation that the bylaw is included in Schedule A, not Appendix A of PS 1008. So that's confirming that we want to deal with the zoning bylaw as a first step in implementing this ticketing system. And also confirming that as staff have drafted the bylaw, it would be effective August 1st, and this would give us time to implement the the strategy and notify the public of what's coming. The board has the option of adopting this bylaw today, and that's as it's presented. And the final recommendation is just that the board endorse the public notification strategy that we have included in Appendix A of the staff report. And I would just note that the goal of this project and adopting this bylaw is to have an effective mechanism for enforcing the zoning bylaw, and this includes, especially at the start, a public notification strategy that will include the general public and also the active bylaw enforcement files that we have. We'd be notifying the property owners of those directly as well. So I would note that the ACRD has been added to the regulation, which is a requirement to proceed with this type of ticketing system, adjudication system, and that happened on February 20th. The city of Nanaimo manages the adjudication to hearing component, so that's the appeal process, and they have agreed to include the ACRD in their agreement with a number of other municipalities and regional districts, including Tofino and the city of Port Alberni also use this system, and that agreement is attached as Schedule B to the bylaw. We're proposing starting with the zoning bylaw, and this will give staff. And staff will regularly update the board on how this is going, and after a period, we're looking at about 6 months, we would come back and talk about other how well it's going and how effective it is, and then also discussing options for including other bylaws. So there's a wide range of regulatory bylaws that can be included in bylaw PS 1008, and can be used through this ticketing system. The purpose of this system is to more effectively enforce, in this instance right now, the zoning bylaw. I just want to note that staff doesn't anticipate this to be a revenue generating system. It's more as the ticket being the deterrent. We would still give people warnings and opportunity to bring their properties into compliance with the bylaw. And I would just note that at the end of the staff report, we have provided some options for the board, which is, one of them being, adopt the bylaw. We could make amendments to Schedule A and include other regulatory bylaws if that's what the board wishes to do at this point in time. If there was further discussion, it could be referred to an EA directors meeting. We'll take alternate direction, and the other option is just continuing with the current system. Now that is not the direction the board's given us. So the board had asked us to prepare this bylaw, and the policy for implementation strategy. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Oh, you're still muted, Director Jack.
I was just hitting space bar and it was nothing but spaces. I have Director Cote, but I'm wondering if I missed anyone. Director McNabb. Okay, so Director Cote and then Director McNabb.
Thank you. Thank you to staff for getting this together. It's been something that we've been wanting for a very long time. And I think that I would recommend that we go ahead with this bylaw resulting in illegal short-term vacation rentals being able to be ticketed. I think that this is a great start, and I would like to see it referred then to the EA directors to continue to discuss other options, other bylaws that we could add on to this. And I know that there's others that I'd like to see, but I don't think today is the time. But so I'd really like to see us support this going forward today and adopting it. Thank you.
So adding it to the agenda for the EA directors, is that something that the chair of the committee can do, or would you like to have a resolution to do that just after we do the rest of these?
I think we should have a resolution after these.
Okay.
Thank
Director
you.
McNabb, please go ahead.
So I'm just wondering, do you want this all read singularly? Or can we move the recommendation, or how do you want to handle that?
Since it's a bylaw, we should do it with each of the lines starting with that.
Okay.
So I think they are separate.
Okay, I would move that the board of directors confirm the inclusion of, I'm having trouble reading this with my glasses, inclusion of the bylaws in Appendix A of, there we go, in Appendix A of PS 1008 and effective date of bylaw as of August 1, 2020.
Correction.
Go ahead.
It's supposed to be schedule, I believe, and not appendix.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for that.
Okay, where does that come?
Oh, Mr. Erg had stated that
okay,
during his presentation. So we didn't make that change, but that would be changing schedule or Appendix A to Schedule A.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you, Director Cote. All right. Any comments? Go ahead.
So I'm just kind of wondering, I mean, my idea on this whole thing was that the whole of the zoning bylaw would be covered, once we get our feet on the ground with this, not just in individual sections of the bylaw. So is that correct or not?
If I may, yes. The way the bylaw is drafted, we would be able to use this ticketing or notice system to enforce the entire zoning bylaw. So short-term vacation rentals where they're contrary to the zoning bylaw would be included, but would include other infractions.
Okay. Are there any further comments on this first motion? Dr. Shannon.
Thank you. I'm happy to start with the zoning bylaw. I just do have a question for Mr. Erg. I know this came up when we were talking about the open burning policy, and maybe I missed this, but just looking for some clarification, because with the burning bylaw, there was, it was noted in there that the ability, it had given the ability to a bylaw officer to go into somebody's house to see if like a wood stove was compliant. And I know we were uncomfortable with that wording of giving a bylaw officer that ability, and just wanting to know clarification on how that works with this
one. So currently, staff or bylaw enforcement officers can attend a property and investigate. Okay. Right, and our practice is to phone ahead, let people know. If it's not just a drive-by on the road, but if we're going to enter people's property, we do let them know. But the legislation allows us to do that now. So this bylaw we're looking at today is just the ticketing component. So it would allow us to issue fines and tickets.
Okay. And then my second comment is when we go into communications for this with the public, just because of some of the comments that I have heard being in a rural area was, and bear with me here, was more along the lines of, I don't want people coming out here driving by looking for work and looking for projects to do. And I just want to make sure that we're really forward with the public and transparent, that this is like in our communication, that this isn't to go looking for work. This is just to be compliant with the bylaw and do the best that we can with this and really explain what it is so people don't get that perception that I think might be out there with some people.
Certainly. So, so our bylaw enforcement policy and how we respond to complaints wouldn't change. So, with the exception of short-term vacation rentals, and I'll just touch on that in a sec. We for bylaw infractions, we respond to written complaints.
Okay.
So somebody has to provide a written complaint. So the exceptions, now we're not dealing with the building bylaw, but if the building inspectors become aware of construction that's going on without a permit and it's a health and safety issue, we have a responsibility to deal with that. And also with regards to short-term vacation rentals, the board's directed us to actively go out and identify where people are operating short-term vacation rentals without the proper permits or outside the zoning. So we've been doing that as well. As far as the first steps in this, if we adopt this bylaw proceeding today, is part of the notification is we would notify both, we'll do some mail outs and some information in the newspaper, but we have, I think, approximately 25 files right now that we're dealing with that are zoning infractions. So we would notify those property owners that this change has been made and that this ticketing system is coming into place and give them the opportunity to bring their properties into compliance.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, I really wanted to make sure that we kind of got rid of that perception of what this might be doing that are in some people's minds versus what the intent is for this to do. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Looking for work is perhaps one of the nicest euphemisms I've heard. Dr. McNabb, please go ahead.
So I've had kind of the opposite reaction in some of the things that have come up lately in Beaver Creek. That people are asking why we're not more proactive with enforcement of things like burning bylaws. Where we have open burning and restrictions for open burning, and we really don't have the ability to deal with it. Odor pollution issues is another one that that I've had that same response. Why isn't the regional district finding these people or so forth? And I've told them that we don't have the ability to find them. We only have the ability to take them to court, and so it is a rather expensive thing to do when you're dealing with somebody burning a bunch of bushes in the backyard. So I think this is the approach that we have to take, and hopefully we're reactive, not proactive as far as enforcement is concerned. But the other thing was that we're going to put the light bar on the Yaris or on one of the Dodge trucks. So we've got a motion on the floor still, right?
We do, yes. Okay, any further comments on the motion itself? See none. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, so next up we have 3 items that have to do with first, second, and third reading. So you can just say moved first reading, moved second reading, that kind of thing instead. We don't have to read the whole thing out now. Director Cote?
I would move first reading.
Thank you, Director Cote. Do we have a seconder? Director Cole, thank you. Cote and Cole, easy to write. Okay, any further comments on first reading? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried.
Move second reading.
Thank you, Director McNabb. Do we have a seconder?
Second, Penny.
Thank you, Director Cote. Any further comments? Director McNabb?
Oh, no.
Oh, you're
I'm voting.
Okay. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
Third.
Thank you. Is that Director Bodner?
No, Director.
Oh, thank you, Director Cole.
Second.
Thank you, Director Cote. Third reading, so no chit chatter. All those in favor? Motion carried. And adoption.
Move adoption.
Thank you, Director Cote. Seconded by Director Bodner. Comments? I think it's right to do this. Okay, all those in favor? Motion carried. And then lastly, we have that the Board of Directors endorse the proposed public notification strategy as outlined in Schedule A of the report.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second. Roberts.
Director Roberts, thank you. And seconded by Director McNabb. Any further comments?
No, I'm voting again.
All those in favor? Motion carried. Director Cote, would you like to refer further development of?
I would. So I'd move that we refer this to the EA directors meeting.
Okay. So this will be defined as further development of enforcement, basically, or we should define that.
Maybe we could ask Mr. Erg for a proper description of what we're looking at.
So I had put that option in case the board wanted to discuss sort of what we're doing today. I think from what I understand, the board would like to talk about other regulatory bylaws that can be discussed or that can be enforced through this bylaw, including some ones that we haven't adopted yet. Specifically around the burning bylaw and the wood stove bylaw. So there is an electoral area directors meeting scheduled for the 24th. We could bring some information there, or if the board would rather, it would be or the one following the EA directors meeting in the fall. We could then bring back more information about what other bylaws could be included, other regulatory bylaws could be included in this bylaw, and also talk about how effective what we have has been. I expect we're going to learn a lot doing this. We've never done ticketing before in the regional district, so it's going to be new for us as well. So as staff, so I really the options are at the EA directors meeting in the fall or on the 24th of June.
So I have a question in regards to that, just on the timing, and you might want to turn. Thank you. For that, then would you be able to have enough time in the event that maybe the directors and the board wanted to bring something in regards to wood stoves? Would waiting until the fall be effective, given that people will start burning around October, November, or does that?
I mean, it certainly would be in the fall. We would be talking about the wood stoves. We are doing the public notification. We have sent out referrals and had some feedback on the bylaws as far as agencies, and we're just putting together information for the website and getting the public feedback. Sort of since we can't have open houses right now, so we're just getting that set up. So I mean, if the board wants to talk about something on the 24th of June, I would be just bringing a list of regulatory bylaws that can be included.
It could just be scheduling and work planning at that point too.
Yeah.
The dog can stay. Okay. Sorry, I saw that. Okay, so with that in mind, Director Cote, it's your option.
During this, so then the motion maybe should be to bring back some information to the June 24th meeting. We won't be making any motions, but it'll give us the tools so that we can work on, as directors, looking at what the issues are and where we think that this could actually support our bylaws.
Okay. Would you like to make that a motion, or just move that as a motion, Director
I'll move that as a motion.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's messy.
Seconded by Director McNabb. Any further comments? Okay, all those in favor? All opposed?
Mr. Chair, sorry, go ahead. I just have a question once we're done this one.
Okay, motion carried. Go ahead.
back to the previous resolution where the board of directors endorsed the proposed public notification strategy outlined in Schedule A of this report. I was hoping Mike could confirm, should that not be Appendix A?
Oh, is it the opposite for the? Oh, it's Appendix A.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's in. Okay.
I got appendixes and schedules mixed up in my report.
Okay.
I apologize.
Duly noted. We'll just pretend I didn't make that mistake.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, that brings us to item 8B, which is another bylaw. So, Mike, you might as well come back. Oh, sorry, Terry. So this is for bylaw R1021-7 West Coast curbside collection rates. It's rates, that's why. Go ahead.
So the ACRD provides curbside collection for Tofino, Ucluelet, and a portion of Area C. And so this is just the change of rates to reflect the new contract that we have going on out there, as well as the increased tipping rates at the landfill. The thing that this doesn't consider is organics that we're hoping to get going here in the next year or so. So we will likely see another rate adjustment for next year. This was considered by the West Coast Committee at the meeting at the beginning of the month. And that's all for me.
Great. As before, we can just say first, second, third reading and adoption instead of reading the whole thing out if need be. But we'll open it up for comments or motions. Director Roberts, you're unmuted. Yeah, you're
yes. I'd like to make the motion that the ACRD Board of Directors give first reading to the bylaw cited as bylaw number R1021-7, Garbage and Recycling Materials Collection Amendment 2020.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Director Osborne. Okay. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
Second reading.
Sure thing. Dr. Osborne, second? Okay. So that is Dr. Roberts moving second reading and Dr. Osborne seconding. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried.
I'll move third reading.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Seconder, Dr. Bodner. All those in favor? Okay, motion carried. It's not booze, it's just an iced tea. Okay.
I'll move adoption.
Thank you. Sorry, who is that? Dr. Johnson?
Yeah.
Okay. Seconded by Director Roberts. Okay, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, thank you. So for those of you in the audience, someone had sent me a message asking, what are you drinking? It's not booze, is it? Because it actually really does look like a little bottle of Jim Beam. Okay. Okay, item C is the request for decision regarding Tinwis Best Western letter of consideration regarding the landfill fee reduction. So don't know who's handling that actually. Just for introduction.
Mr. Chair, I think Jenny can take this one.
Okay, please go ahead when you're up and running.
Hey there. Yes, so we presented at the West Coast Committee and explained that there was a double charge for load, and we feel that the business has made enough efforts to change their behavior and has learned from this, and so staff recommended that we reduce the rate, and the West Coast Committee supported that recommendation.
Great. Did you get a haircut as well?
I did. Thank you for noticing.
It's like everyone. Okay. West Coast Committee folks, motion. Director Roberts.
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion that the ACRD Board of Directors approve reducing the charge for the mixed load delivered to the West Coast landfill dated March 11th, 2020 from $2,200 to $1,100.
Do we have a, thank you, Director McCarthy. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item D, the West Coast Transit Service. So I think it's the service plan. Sorry. I actually don't know who would handle that. Doug. And/or
Mr. Chair, normally Mr. Williams would handle this. He's away, unfortunately. The transit plan was presented to the West Coast Committee June 1st, and representatives from BC Transit came and discussed routing and refinements in terms of frequency, et cetera, and updated some cost estimates, et cetera. And so the next stage is, as recommended by the West Coast Committee, is to approve the BC Transit Plan for the West Coast Transit Service, and that'll keep us moving towards implementing this.
Okay, thank you. Director Shannon.
Thank you. I just had a question from, from the committee meeting, the agenda from that, or the notice from that versus the one that we have. It asked if there was a motion or the recommendation or option at the committee meeting to defer from September 2021 to September 2022. Does the motion we're looking at today include the later date or the original date of 2021? I just wasn't clear on that. And if there was any discussion.
Mr. Chair, going from memory of the discussion there, and maybe one of the committee members can clarify or correct me on this, but I think that BC Transit themselves are examining their various obligations, et cetera, and so it is not 100% certain that they can actually make 2021 either. So I think there are further junctures along the way before these things are finalized at that point. So I think right now the target is still 2021 for the fall. But I think there will be a couple more touch points between the regional district and BC Transit before that actually gets finalized and specific start dates are identified.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious because it had mentioned the option of the later date because of seeing where the economy is at that point and budgeting options. So thank you.
Thank you.
Director Osborne next. And did I miss anyone?
What Doug said. That's it.
Okay, see, you're there already. Okay, we do have a recommended motion in front of us if we're prepared to move forward. Maybe.
I'll move that the ACRD Board of Directors approve the BC Transit Service Plan for West Coast Transit Service.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Director Cole. Any further comments? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to item E, which is an invitation for the BC Transit and TransLink Communities meeting, June 16th, 2020. Ooh, is that a Monday? Is that Monday? No, it's Tuesday. Okay, that's...
Mr. Chair, by way of reminder, I believe this actually came as an invitation to the chair, and my recollection is that you were unavailable, and for that reason we brought it to the board to assign another director if that's the will of the board.
Yeah, my brain was just catching up. Thanks for the reminder. So I'm not able to make this particular meeting. I'm wondering if someone else is able to attend in my stead. Director Cote?
I've been to a number of BC Transit meetings, community meetings, and I wouldn't mind continuing on.
Okay. Would anyone like to make that a motion? Director Shannon?
I'll make the motion that Director Cote attend the UBCN meeting for all BC Transit and TransLink communities on Tuesday, June 16th from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. via Zoom.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Director Haggard. All right, no discussion. I don't want Penny to back out. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thank you very much, Director Cote. That's very helpful. Okay, item F is the Long Beach Airport food production proposal. I guess that would be Rob. Douglas, would that be you then?
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if Jenny can speak to this one, and if not, I will be happy.
That's appreciated. If you want to, please go ahead.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Louise from Tofino Urban Farms, and I believe they had they've set up a new food production proposal looking at putting a greenhouse in, I don't know, property near the airport. The West Coast Committee received, they did both a presentation and there was a cover staff report. And they recommended that they look at this in the 2020 work plan for further review and consideration.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or motions? Director Roberts.
Yeah, I'd like to make that motion that the ACRD Board of Directors approve the Long Beach Airport food production proposal to be added to the 2020 ACRD work plan for further review and consideration. I know that there's going to have to, I just leave it there for that recommendation.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Thank you, Director Osborne. Okay, go ahead, Director Roberts. You had to follow
thank
up?
you for that. My understanding is that there is going to be, I believe it's going to be involving Mr. Williams, but there is going to be a lot of negotiations involved with this. And it was an extremely worthwhile proposal that they came forward with, and it would benefit all of the West Coast. So thanks for that.
Thanks. Director Haggard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When I first started reading this proposal, I was quite excited because we've all realized over the last few months how delicate our supply chains are, especially for food. But when I started looking at their proposal, I was a little bit concerned because their numbers just don't work. And according to the numbers they've presented, it's not a viable business. It's not up to the regional district to ensure that it is a viable business, but may I ask staff to recommend to them that maybe they call the business development officer at Community Futures, work with her to develop a really comprehensive business plan so that they're comfortable before moving forward with this proposed business. Otherwise, I do support the motion, the staff work with them, but I think that would be a good recommendation for them to do. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Director Haggard. Community Futures does create a lot of value there, so that's great. Are there any further comments? Dr. Cote.
Thank you. There's the food hub on the West Coast now that might be able to give them some support also. There's grants available. And I did also note the numbers and thought that was a little light on their part of what the costs are going to be. But I totally am supportive of this and really would like to see it happen. It's very important for food initiatives to get going. I'd also like maybe this report just passed on to the Alberni or the Ag Development Committee, and maybe they can offer some support as well. Thanks.
I think that's a good idea. Okay, any further comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that referral, Director Cote, is that something we can just do with the chair? Yeah, okay. Item G, location change for the June board meeting scheduled for Long Beach. Yeah. Okay. Wendy?
Would you like me to speak to it? So in June of each year, we take the board meeting on kind of a road show and hold it in a different location in the region. Last year it was held in Cherry Creek. This year it was due to be held in the Long Beach area. But due to the COVID pandemic and practicing physical distancing and keeping everyone safe, we're recommending that it be canceled this year for Long Beach and just held via Zoom. And then next year we will schedule for Long Beach.
Thank you. So the motion is a three-parter, but it's all one motion, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Director Cote. So do we have seconded, Director Cole? Alrighty. So just for everyone's edification, I'm going to quickly read out that in order to continue the physical distancing practices and protect the health, safety, and well-being of ACRD directors, staff, and public during the COVID-19 pandemic, the ACRD Board of Directors, A, approved changing the location of the regular Board of Directors meeting on June 24th, 2020, scheduled to be held in the Long Beach area to be held via Zoom video phone conferencing, and B, confirmed that all ACRD board and committee meetings will continue to be held via Zoom video phone conferencing during the COVID-19 pandemic. So moved by Director Cote, seconded by Director Cole. Are there any comments? I think the only comment I have is, is July, August, or September on the table, but then I realize after July I'm not around for a month. So that being said, any further comments? Dr. Roberts? All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that's next up is item H, the ACRD emergency notification system. Voyant. Please go ahead, Heather.
Thanks. So there's a request for decision before you, and it's related to the implementation of an emergency notification system for the Alberni Valley and Banfield areas. This type of notification system was noted during exercise coastal response that we held in 2016, and again in January 2018 when we had the tsunami warning. It's a tool to be able to quickly notify the public if there's an emergency. It is also used by many communities. The board previously supported the use of Connect Rocket, another emergency notification system, in 2018. However, we did not implement the system due to staff vacancies. So prior to moving forward with implementing a mass notification system, I wanted to look at what was available and to ensure that I selected the best system for our area. So I looked at what other communities were doing on the island, and I came up with two systems that we wanted to further explore, one being Connect Rocket and the other one being Voyant Alert. Both of those systems are used by regional districts and municipalities surrounding us. So I put together a group of people to conduct a demo of each of the systems, including all of the Valley Fire Chiefs, City Public Works and Communication staff, as well as ACRD staff. And we all unanimously recommended Voyant Alert. One of the deciding factors for me is the mapping function that allows EOC in an emergency situation to map out and select the notification area, and so to target emergency notifications to the area that you want to communicate with, rather than having to notify the whole valley. Notifications can come via text, email, phone to landline. The recommendation that I put forward is only for about Alberni Valley and Banfield, and that's because we're currently finalizing the Long Beach emergency plan, and it would be my preference to wait until that's finalized to decide if we want to include Long Beach in this system. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Director Roberts, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for that, Heather. I was a little disappointed, but in further review of the plan that you were talking about, once Sybil has finished her proposal, that we would consider having the Voyant Alert system for Long Beach as well, Area C. In future, when there's going to be you've had all the emergency services and yourself and other staff members involved. If it's going to affect our areas, I wouldn't mind finding out a little bit about what the alert system is all about and a total description of it. But okay. So far it looks really good. Thank you very much.
Okay, there is a motion attached. Dr.
Are you looking for a mover?
Yeah.
Oh.
Dr. Haggard got there first. Would you like to second, Dr. Osborne?
I'll second it, and I'll just make a quick comment that the District of Tofino, we just actually switched to Voyant Alert, and we ran our first test. We've been migrating everybody over from our old system to Voyant Alert, and we ran our first test last Friday, and it worked great, worked really well, and our staff is really excited about the way this app and program works and the benefits it has over the one we were using before. So it's good.
That's great to hear. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, that brings us to planning matters. And I'm going to take a poll of the board. I need to use the washroom. Is it possible to do a break, or should Dr. Osborne just take over? How's everyone doing for bio break?
I could use a break.
Yeah? Okay, so let us break for, come back at 3 o'clock. And streaming will continue, and it'll be really boring for a lot of folks. My apologies. But, oh, hi, Alex. So we'll be back right at 3, if that's all right. Thank you. Okay. Alex, are you online? Or are you? Yeah, there we go. Okay. As soon as I see enough faces, we'll get started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can get started. So please take it away. So the next agenda item is 9.1A, which is the public hearing procedures during COVID-19.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have a report for you detailing procedures we have proposed for conducting public hearings using an electronic means. Planning staff have engaged in conversations with other jurisdictions and conducted research on how other local governments are handling public hearings during COVID-19. This information is detailed for you in the report. The procedures vary between organizations, but the consistent feedback we've been receiving is that electronic public hearings are very resource heavy in terms of staff time required to set up and conduct the hearings themselves, and that we need to be prepared for technical challenges. We found no real comparative examples of similarly sized organizations to the ACRD, as many of the early adopters of electronic public hearings have been larger municipalities on the Lower Mainland, on the island, and in the Okanagan. So staff have presented a number of options for the board. We are recommending a procedure that we think will work for our organization, given our limitations in safely accommodating people in the boardroom and recognizing that we want to be as inclusive as possible with electronic participation from the public. So the option we have recommended for you is a hybrid option where the chairperson of the public hearing and the staff would be physically present in the boardroom, and the applicant and members of the public would be given the opportunity to connect with the public hearing remotely, either by using Zoom video conferencing or phoning in and joining by phone conference. So happy to answer any questions on that.
Muted.
Yeah.
Dr. Bodnar, please go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was muted there. Yes.
So was I.
I didn't see this as an option, but what I seem to be hearing clearly from what I read is that anything that's going to be electronically organized is going to be a lot of expensive and take a lot of staff time. So I'm wondering if another choice could be to waive the public hearing where the zoning amendments are consistent with the OCPs, and to seek facilities to hold in-person public hearings if they are small, so we can still have social distancing. And if we can anticipate that it's going to be a lot of opposition in a public hearing, perhaps that's the time to maybe put in a hybrid. It's just a suggestion.
Thank you for that, Director Bodner. Mr.
Would
Eric?
you like me to? Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that. So in certain circumstances, and several of the rezoning applications that the board deals with, there is the option to waive the public hearing and have alternative input. So it's not no input. At the last board meeting, that staff understood that wasn't the direction the board wanted to go. With regard to the hybrid proposal that Alex has presented, I think meets the legislative requirements. It will be, we anticipate it will be more work, and that's certainly the feedback we've had from other jurisdictions that have done some public hearings and that are also in the process of setting them up. But also based on the feedback, and I refer to the West Kelowna case study that Alex provided in his report, holding an in-person public hearing would also be a significant amount of work. We have to prepare for public attendance, even in those circumstances where we know people aren't going to come. And I would look at the last contentious public hearing we had, which was around the cannabis. So the numbers of people that wanted to participate exceeded the number. There were more than 50 people there, and that's contrary to the public health order. And also we have to take into account the WorkSafe regulations about how we interact, not just the public health order around gatherings, right? So I would say that for us to try and organize in-person public hearings, that would be even more cumbersome. So the hybrid model, it was sort of our staff, the recommendation that we put together, staff Alex put together in this report, based on the feedback that we had from the board. We're certainly happy to answer any questions, or if the board wishes to have a discussion on moving forward with other options about waiving the public hearing. We're happy to do that. Certainly like to hear from other directors. I think at this stage it wouldn't be prudent to hold an in-person public hearings. I think that would be challenging, and then also we need to think about what kind of example we're setting. So we're strongly encouraging people to practice physical distancing and to not not to have those interactions that they don't have to have. So I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Great. So far I have Dr. Cote, Shannon, and McNabb. Did I miss anyone? Dr. Cole. Oh no, sorry, it is Dr. Cole. My writing is just not good. Sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Cole.
I'm pretty sure this isn't one where I get to vote on anyways. Am I correct on that?
Looks like participants.
Yeah. So I did want to say that we went through this last night in council here in Ucluelet. All the same things. We steered away from, just for information, we steered away from the hybrid format and went with strictly just the Zoom participation. And it was because our staff didn't recommend the approach due to limited seating capacity in our facility, and increased staffing requirements and overtime need to moderate and regulate meeting attendance, as well as the costs associated with the hardware required to present the meeting in the overflow area. So I guess there were a bunch of components based on the size of our space that we normally deal with to accommodate the hybrid approach. But that's just saying, and I also think that it's really important to have the public hearings and public input. So I think that we just decided to go with the Zoom thing. That's all.
I think my understanding of, at least my initial reading of the first and second paragraph for the number 3 hybrid, is that it would be Zoom for actual attendees. It would just be that the chair and the staff have to be in the same room. So it might be the same thing, just with different words. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Shannon and then Dr. McNabb.
Thank you. First, I just want to say thank you to staff. I really appreciate that this work's been put into this, because I know I was one of the ones vocal at the last meeting that I still wanted a form of public hearings. So I think that this is a great, great recommendation, and I'm happy to move the motion.
Okay, do we have a seconder or yep, thank you, Director McNabb. Did you have a follow-up or can we go to Director McNabb?
No, we can go Director McNabb. Just thank you for the work on this to keep it open to the public to have the opportunity there.
Yeah, indeed. Director McNabb.
So I think that it's really important that we make public hearings as accessible as possible. And I think that this is, in our situation, the best route to go. As a chair for sitting in on these public hearings, I think that it would be best to do it in concert with a staff member to keep things on track the way they need to be. And but I think this option is the best one for us. Thanks.
Thank you, Director McNabb. Director Cote.
Thank you. I just agree with all the comments so far. Thanks.
Okay. So any further comments? All right. Thank you for the work on this. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, I think that's it for planning matters. That brings us to reports. It's staff reports. Would anyone like to pull anything out or just move reception to receive? Move to receive. Director
Mr.
Shen.
Chair, there is one verbal report for 10-1A.
10-1A. Oh, it does say verbal. My apologies, Ms. Zenner. Please go ahead.
That's okay. Thank you. So this is a change. Instead of doing our Friday updates to board and council, I'll do them now at the ACRD board meetings. So as way of reminder, the ACRD and the City of Port Alberni jointly opened our Emergency Operations Center on March 12th. We've been operating at a level 1 to support the local response to COVID-19. Our role is to support the lead agencies. In this case, lead agencies are the BC Centre for Disease Control and the Ministry of Health. So we take our direction from them. There's no change on the cases on Vancouver Island. There's been no change since May 7th, which means we remain at 130 cases, including 5 deaths in our health authority, and 125 people are recovered. We will continue to operate the EOC in a monitoring phase for the foreseeable future to be prepared should COVID return to our area. We're also preparing for other emergencies that may impact the regional district. The EOC continues to be updated from Emergency Management BC on a weekly basis to receive information on COVID as well as other potential emergencies. Of note, the province extended the provincial state of emergency earlier today. That is in effect until June 23rd. The shower facility for the vulnerable populations continues to be operated by the City of Port Alberni and Canadian Mental Health Association, with funding for this project provided by the province. We've been able to support the Salvation Army, Bread of Life, and Canadian Mental Health Association in their food delivery program to the vulnerable populations by getting their mileage costs covered by the province. We are continuing to coordinate work on the COVID-19 Path to Recovery Plan, which, as you know, is a joint recovery plan between the Regional District and the City of Port Alberni. The plan goals include promoting health and financial well-being of residents, facilitating business continuity and resiliency, and as well as to learn from the organizational response to the pandemic. Our community recovery team met on June 2nd and will meet again next week in preparation for our stakeholder meeting on June 23rd. We have a wide range of community members who have been invited to participate to support the action items in the recovery plan and to help prioritize the work. Of note, the Island Health Authority extended the overdose advisory yesterday for another week. There's a continued increase in overdose deaths on Vancouver Island from opioids and stimulants. As way of reminder, COVID testing is available to anyone with COVID-like symptoms. There are testing locations in Port Alberni, Banfield, and Tofino, and it can be accessed by self-referring yourself. hours of operation of the testing sites can be found on the BC Centre for Disease Control website. There's also a 1-800 number you can call and self-refer yourself for a test. The EOC is continuing on with our social media updates, our print ads in the Alberni Valley News, our radio ads. Mayor Minions, as the EOC spokesperson, is continuing with another radio interview tomorrow morning, and she does Facebook Live events on the alternating weeks, and we will continue to do that and keep the public informed of our activities in the EOC for COVID as well as any other emergencies. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Director McNabb, and then Director Cote, and then Director Bodner.
So my question is around our plans with regards to the ACRD office, and I imagine the City Hall is following the same format that we are, but all businesses are basically encouraged to open in one form or another. And, you know, we're still sitting with a regional district office that is closed to the public. The expense that's gone to the businesses have stepped up and borne to facilitate the public coming in, you know, should be the same responsibility in our offices to customers, our customers, the residents of the Alberni Valley and the West Coast. Basically, you know, there are situations where it's much better to be speaking one-on-one with somebody in an office than emailing or trying to talk something out over the phone. So I'm wondering what our timeline on that is.
Mr. Chair, we're preparing a report that'll come to the board 2 weeks from today with respect to setting policy for our mitigation of the risks associated with the pandemic and operating the office. It won't necessarily deal with a specific date as to when it will be opening. I think every particular organization is a little bit different in terms of what its building can facilitate. We have a very narrow hall, for example. That said, we are preparing, I guess what you call engineering responses, so plexiglass in preparation for meeting in person, et cetera. Right now, the services have continued to the public and uninterrupted. That said, one of our contractors has closed their operations, and we hope to be within the next couple of weeks talking about what the plans are for reopening the Third Avenue facility. But we've provided alternate, though admittedly for some people less convenient work in that regard, so that service can still be provided. But all in all, we're still receiving building permit applications and processing those. We're still receiving payments and for utilities and getting inquiries on various matters related to utilities and land use applications, development permits, et cetera. All that's still continuing on and through slightly different mechanisms. And those mechanisms are likely to continue in the future. But back to Director McNabb's specific question with relation to the operation of the office, we will be talking about how to offer broader services, including in-person services, through that report in the coming couple of weeks.
Mm. Plexiglass has been a bit of a bottleneck for a lot of places. So, yeah. Anyway. We're dealing with the same thing at HFN. Are there any other? Oh, Director McNabb, follow up?
I don't know if I'm on or off. Yeah, I mean, the federal government, part of their funding initiative is toward provinces and communities that are working towards, actively working towards being open. And I really think that it's we're kind of taking a backseat kind of method there, and especially from my point of view, in a business where we were kind of kicking and screaming to get this in place. And especially in our community where the COVID count is extremely low, these separating abilities that we have with plexiglass or glass panels or whatever, that probably should have been in place to begin with anyhow. I just think it's taking far longer than the business world is taking, and I'm not sure why that is.
Okay. Was that a comment or a question, Director McNabb? Do you want?
Could be a bit of both, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, we were expected to do it immediately or not receive funding. So I understand that the federal government has got funding for municipalities and likely regional districts on sort of the same basis, where they're looking towards providing some closer to normal services than we are. And what it kind of looks like to me is that we're not really putting a firm effort into this part of our response.
Okay, thank you for that. I think we'll have the answers when the report is tabled. Go ahead.
Chair, if I could just add, yeah, the plexiglass has been ordered some time ago. It's an ETA of installation by the end of this month, 1st of July. And I would observe that we've been working actually fairly consistently on developing the plan for to ultimately get to the board. We've been evaluating the WorkSafe provisions, which have been evolving fairly regularly. And Wendy and I spent this morning on a legal seminar on exactly these plans. So we're trying to get the best information that we can together, focusing on the requirements that we have as an employer and as a public service delivery operation.
Thank you for that. I have Director Cote and then Director Bodner next. Is there anyone else? Director Shannon? Yes? Oh, okay. Okay, Director Cote, please.
Thank you. A couple of areas. One, I'd really like to see the recycle opened up for cardboard. I think it's important. It's an important resource that we have that we're not able to utilize at this time. So I'd really like to know what our efforts are to open that right at this time. And also, I realize that playgrounds are opening, and I'm just wondering also if other facilities are opening, say the ice arena or that type of basketball, I don't know, other sports. I know that the pickleballers are hounding Sprout Lake to get that going again. And well, I guess it's open today. Thanks.
Pickleballers are like the sports fishermen of the recreation world. They're so organized. Jennifer, you came onto video. I assume you want to speak, so please go ahead.
Yeah, I can give an update on 3rd Avenue. I'll be having a report coming in 2 weeks to the board. I don't have details, but we are in the process of doing an assessment this week. We also need to make sure that we are making the place safe for both staff that work there as well as the public. We expect to be dealing with this COVID thing for a long time, so we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing and we don't have to re-close it down ever. So I hope to have an ETA, any associated cost estimates, and all of those things to you as soon as possible. We are trying to communicate as much as we can to the public. The Alberni Valley landfill accepts cardboard for both residential for free and for commercial at a charge. We have doubled the capacity out there, and we are now in the process of getting it set up so that we can have stewardship products taken there beyond the Recycle BC. So the small appliances, the lights, the alarms. We have a lot of people who are very anxious to be dropping that off, and we know that with 3rd Avenue not open, we need to provide that. So again, I promise to provide more details on that at the next board meeting, I believe.
Thank you. We look forward to that. So I have Director Bodner and then Director Haggard.
Was there anything about the sporting like the hockey or anything?
I was going to answer that for Director Cote.
Go ahead, Director Haggard. We'll put you in front of Director Bodner.
Okay. The arena is taking rentals starting in July, and the pool will remain closed until September. Thank you.
Thanks. Director Bodner.
Yes, I have two things that I'd like to bring up. One is a question, because the playgrounds are going to be open now. Should there be some kind of notice put up there about that the play equipment is not clean and that they should have their disinfectants and also have their distancing? That's the question. And this is a comment. Just around noon before this meeting, I heard Dr. Henry say that there was a family gathering of 30 people, and one of them had COVID, and she didn't know she had it, and they were all tested, and 15 of them had COVID. I don't know the details.
I think that's an important thing to reiterate here. So I want to thank you for mentioning that, and just to remind everyone that things are looking good, but we're not quite clear yet. And so on and so forth. So I have Douglas, and then you can determine who will speak between Ms. Zenner and Ms. Brunn, because they both came back to life. So,
Mr. Chair, I was just going to ask Ms. Zenner to describe the signage that we've developed jointly with the city and the school district.
Yeah, so prior to opening the playgrounds, we developed the signage together based on the advice that we got from Island Health. So the signage is installed at the playgrounds and identifies social distancing for adults, encourages users of the play equipment to sanitize their hands before and after, identifies that the equipment is not disinfected. Yeah, it's all installed, and it should be obvious to the users.
Thank you, Heather.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense, because most good disinfectants that work quickly leave red marks on hands. I learned that myself. Okay, are there any other comments? Okay. Dr. Cote, please go ahead.
Thanks. The playground signage is only and sporting is only good for coming from the regional district for facilities that we own. And I think I'm correct on that. I know that the Sprout Lake Community Association has their pickleball, and I'm going to be asking them to buy their own signs. That would be the same image and that the regional district and the city is using, so that it stays the same. It's not something new. I think that that's important, that stays status for that. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to thank you, Heather, for your report, and we do have a motion to receive the reports. Okay, moved by Director Beckett, seconded by Director Shannon. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, there are no committee reports. There are no other reports. No unfinished business, no late business. Wendy, do we have any responses at acrd.bc.ca?
Hi, Mr. Chair. No, there were no responses received from the public with respect to the agenda items on today's meeting.
Okay, and I'll note that the participants are all within the circle. I don't think Dave or anyone have connected. So we will move into calling a recess. Could we have a motion for that, please? Director Shannon, thank you. Seconded by Dr. Bodner. All those in favor? Motion carried. All right, I will mute.
Okay, thank you. I'll call our Alberni-Clayoquot Regional Hospital District Board of Directors meeting to order for 3:26 p.m. and recognize that we are conducting our business in Natollins territory. out here in colloquiate territory for myself and yourselves for various different places. Can I please have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Director Shannon, seconded by Director Jack. I need to expand my screen so I can see you all. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carried. So we have the Board of Directors meeting from May 13th, the minutes for adoption.
So moved.
Adoption.
Oh,
Thank
second.
you, Director Jack and Director Cote. Any errors or omissions in the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. And we will move right into reports and start off with the Bamfield.
No report, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Alberni Clackwood Continuing Care Society, Director McNabb.
So we've got two meetings coming up next week. One of them is the financial audit, which is done annually. And then we have the AGM for the society coming up after that. So those will both be done on Microsoft Team, which doesn't work very well for that application for some reason or other. We did it with WeWag the other day and it worked fine, but so I don't know what's going on there, but it's hard. It's actually a very difficult communication piece there. I'd just like to say that there has been some questions with regards on the internet with regards to access, families' access to Fir Park and Echo and engagement with their relatives that are residents there. And that whole protocol is under the directive of Island Health. And it has served us very well to this point, where we've had 0 cases of COVID in Fir Park or Echo. And in fact, I think Rainbow Gardens has had 0 as well. So it's, it is difficult, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to have some contact. That appears to be the way Island Health is actually going, where they're allowing one relative to be an internal contact person. And so it's a difficult time for staff there. It's a difficult time for the residents. And, I certainly applaud the massive effort it has taken to have PPEs on hand, to have the building spotlessly clean, and to try to maintain some level of morale in both the staff and the residents. So tough times, but we're going through it. So hopefully there's a new day coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director McNabb. Any questions for the director? Nope. Okay. West Coast Native Healthcare Society, Director Cote.
Thank you. I think all is well there, and no report.
All right. Thanks very much. From the Tofino Ucluelet end of the thing, I don't have any new news to bring you with respect to Tofino General Hospital. Director Cole, do you have anything?
No new news. We're just really lucky and fortunate and happy out here still.
Good. Thank you very much. All right. Alberni Clackwood Health Network, Director Cote, back to you.
We have a meeting coming up on Wednesday. We have been co-meeting with the Coastal Family Resource Coalition on the West Coast. It's been great hearing about what is happening within all our communities. So no real initiatives that are on the go at the moment. But this food hub sounds interesting on the greenhouses on the West Coast. So we'll be talking about that, I'm sure. Thanks.
Thank you. And West Coast General Hospital, anything from any of the Alberni Valley directors? Okay, seeing nothing. I'll just give you a very short report from the All RHD meeting that I attended with Terry Fong on May 29th. So obviously we moved this to an online meeting, and as is the case with online meetings, they're just different, and maybe we don't kind of get into it as much. So it was a shorter meeting than we would normally have in person. And we did, however, have representatives from the First Nations Health Authority join us. And that was really fantastic. It was something that we had talked about doing about a year ago. And at the last 6 months ago, the last semi-annual meeting, they were not able to attend, but we had Brendan McDonald and Mark Fitzmaurice from the First Nations Health Authority, and they gave a presentation and talked about their own capital planning process and decision-making processes. And it was a good way to start or to restart a relationship. We had a presentation about long-term care planning that I will actually ask to talk to you more about in the in-camera meeting, because it was, we were requested to keep it confidential. And we did have, I would say most of the meeting really centered on, again, the major capital project approval process and budgeting process. And just, again, as is no surprise to you, a lot of discussion from us as elected representatives around the challenges that this presents to property taxpayers with the current capital funding formula, and lots of discussion once again around financing and ownership of healthcare facilities. And we also had a lot of talk about COVID and response to COVID and really all the learning lessons that we're going through right now. And that really was, I think, the main substance of the meeting. Terry, did you want to add anything?
No, I think you captured it all. Great. It's definitely challenging to do it online, but it was still good to get everybody together.
Yeah, it really was. I completely agree. So that's it. Are there any reports missed? No. How about a motion to accept the reports, receive the reports? Director Shannon.
So moved.
McNabb. Thanks very much. Everyone in favor? Thank you. Motion carried. And that's that, I think. So motion to adjourn. Thank you. Oh gosh, all these hands to pick from. Directors McNabb and Jack. Thank you. All in favor? And back to you, Director Jack. Motion carried.
Okay, I was able to finish 1.5 cookies. So that brings us to reconvening and going in camera. So I'll quickly read out the in-camera items. So there's 2 of them with several references. It's a motion to close the meeting to the public as per the community charter sections 90 sub 1J. Information that is prohibited, or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, as well as 21(1)(ci) of the same act. The head of a public body must refuse to disclose to an applicant information the disclosure of which could not be could reasonably be expected to harm significantly competitive position or interfere significantly with the negotiating position of the third party. In section 21(1)(c)(3) of the same act, the head of a public body must refuse to disclose an applicant information to the disclosure of which could reasonably be expected to result in undue financial loss or gain to any person or organization. And then finally, section 92B, the consideration of information, 92B of the Charter, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the regional district and a provincial government or the federal government or both, or between a provincial government or the federal government or both and a third party.